Greetings, all. What a fascinating forum discussion and live session on psychopharmacology. In your live session, I was particularly delighted with the depth of your insights and your stories. And the same is true with regard to your the rest of your forum discussion. You did a spectacular job of integrating the readings and the thought-provoking literature review with your own lived and professional experience. As you pointed out, there are significant economic factors. Amanda discusses corporate interests, for example, that are invested in people staying sick. Several of you discussed bias with regard to psychotropic medication. Italy and Haley discussed over-medicating kids. And as Joanne points out, it's so much easier for kids to get medicine than someone to talk to. This is a critical insight. And several of you discussed how drugs can be used as a crutch to manage people without recovery entering into the conversation. As Justin points out, psychopharmacological substances should always be given with the intent of facilitating recovery. Sarah underscores the importance of putting personal bias aside when working with people. And Amanda points out that bias and stigma keep people from seeking help and or taking medicine that they need. As Cecilia points out, the issue of medication is complex. Medication can be both a risk and a protective factor at the same time. And it is important to understand this complexity. As Scott says, I tell my children and other clients that it isn't about the drug itself, but rather it's the behaviors surrounding the drug's use. If they are lying, cheating, stealing, hustling, or acting in other ways of which they are ashamed, then it doesn't matter if it's Tylenol, marijuana, crack, or Jell-O pops. It's a problem. This is a very important point and insight. Scott goes on to say, when we choose to look at behaviors surrounding the use of a substance rather than the substance use itself, it can help alleviate some of the biases we have about particular drugs in order to make a more honest appraisal of the circumstances. As Nikki points out, there is social acceptance and normalization of certain substances, which actually makes it more difficult to focus on problematic behaviors, for example, surrounding alcohol use. I was impressed with the candor with which you share your experiences, particularly with regard to self-medicating. This is so important to share and hear one another's stories in this regard. As Megan points out, when you're self-medicating, you're not actually getting better, you're just feeling less. So once again, you have taken advantage of this opportunity to delve into subject matter, and you've been very generous with your own stories of lived experience. And you've done a wonderful job of integrating the professional literature, the literature review, and your own observations. Well done.